The cup was filled with dirt, but the prisoner had to pretend he was drinking coffee. When the guards weren't looking, he'd quietly dump the soil into the trash. To escape this prison, he had to pull out every trick in the book. Mike started by punching a hole through the ceiling, then chiseled it into a square shape and used a hacksaw to cut through the gaps. To avoid leaving any traces, someone was assigned to catch the falling debris. The plan was to remove a single intact slab, but the next moment, chunks of rubble came crashing down and scattered across the floor. The accident startled everyone. They had to seal the hole immediately. If the guards spotted it, they'd be in serious trouble. But right at that moment, a guard showed up downstairs to make his rounds. The prisoners split up fast. One guy rushed downstairs, grabbed a guitar, and started singing loudly to slow the guard down. Others ran to the kitchen for eggs. Some went next door to borrow a poster, and the rest got to work cleaning up the room. They wrapped the dirt in a rug and dumped it into a travel bag. Next, they tore up some newspaper and tossed the scraps into the trash, added water, cracked all the eggs into it, mixed in a bunch of dirt and flour, and kneaded it all together into a large ball of dough. The dough was just the right size to plug the hole in the ceiling. Finally, they covered the spot with a poster. Meanwhile, the guard made his way up to the second floor. As his footsteps drew closer, the prisoners started splashing water to wash away the dust and brushed off their clothes. Just then, the guard stopped outside the door. Seeing the nervous looks on the prisoners' faces, he grew suspicious. The guards began searching every corner of the room, starting with the blankets and mattresses, then moving to the bookshelves and finally the posters. One guard even ripped off every single poster, including the ones on the ceiling. Luckily, right at the critical moment, a supervisor outside called for them to pull back, and the prisoners narrowly escaped disaster. But that hole in the ceiling wasn't actually their escape route. It was just a hiding spot for all the dirt, since the space above was large enough to store it. The real tunnel was being dug from a corner on the first floor. They first measured the distance with a ruler, then used a saw blade to cut through, and finally pried open the wall with a larger file, eventually hollowing out all the bricks inside. To conceal the opening, Mike and John built a square mold, prepared some dough the same way as before, and filled the container with concrete. Once it hardened, it became a fake wall panel. They fitted the piece into the wall and covered the cracks with a paste made from white paint. To the naked eye, it looked just like a normal wall, virtually undetectable. They bagged up the excavated dirt and quietly carried it up to the second floor room. Through the hole in the ceiling upstairs, the soil was stashed in the roof space. To avoid the guards' patrols, they set up lookouts from the first floor all the way to the second. The moment a guard got close, a signal would be given. Work in the room would stop immediately, and everything would be restored to its original state. But then something went wrong. One day, John was heading upstairs with a bag when he ran right into a guard. The guard suspected something was off and ordered him to open the bag for inspection. With no other choice, John unclipped the bag. Inside wasn't dirt, just a few personal items. John thought that would be the end of it, but the guard told him to come down to the office. Once downstairs, John set the bag on the ground, and Mike quietly grabbed the contents. When they got to the office, the guard was about to inspect the bag but realized it was gone. Although he didn't press the matter further, it definitely raised his suspicions. After this close call, Mike and the others decided the method was too risky, so they came up with a new plan. Cut another opening in the first floor ceiling. This way, dirt could be passed directly from the first floor hole up to the second floor, then through the room and into the ceiling space above. It was not only safer, but also more efficient. Just when everything was running smoothly, the prison launched a surprise inspection. Mike and the others saw it coming and immediately ran back to the room, waving for their buddies in the ceiling to get out. Other prisoners scrambled to clean up the scene, but the raid came so suddenly that there wasn't enough time to restore everything. A lot of dirt was still lying around, and some of their guys were still stuck in the tunnel. With exposure imminent, Paul came up with a quick idea. He deliberately stirred up resentment among the inmates, then rallied a dozen prisoners to block the guards. A full-on brawl broke out, and the scene descended into chaos. Seizing the opportunity, the men in the tunnel scrambled out, sealed the hole with stone, and covered the cracks with white paste. Even though the troublemakers were punished by being forced to kneel for 5 hours, they had protected the escape plan. From that point on, Mike and the others became even more careful. To avoid drawing attention from other inmates, they could only move dirt during the day. The silence of night made any noise in the ceiling too easy to detect. But with so few people involved, after more than 30 days of work, they had only dug about 3 meters. At that rate, it would take 10 years to reach their destination. So Mike started recruiting more people, sharing the plan with trusted inmates, and quickly attracted new members. As an engineer, Mike wired electricity into the tunnel to solve the lighting problem. Then they ramped up to 12-hour workdays, split into 6 shifts with each person working 2 hours. At this pace, they could excavate about 120 kilograms of dirt per day. To avoid raising suspicion, every time someone came out of the tunnel, they thoroughly cleaned off all the dirt, even scrubbing under their fingernails. At the same time, to hide their exhaustion, they kept up their exercise routines. Some jumped rope, others practiced boxing, and they never missed social activities. Staying visible to other inmates kept things looking normal. As the tunnel went deeper, new problems emerged. One of the guys suddenly passed out while digging and was barely pulled out in time. After checking, they realized it was due to lack of oxygen in the tunnel. To fix this, Paul went to the workshop hoping to borrow a motor, but the old man in charge said he couldn't just lend out important equipment. In the end, Paul had to tell him the whole plan and promised to bring him along during the escape before the old man finally handed over the crucial tool. During a later visitation, they also managed to get some plastic bags. They attached a fan blade to the motor, placed it inside a bucket, and used the plastic bags as a ventilation pipe to pump oxygen into the tunnel. After more than 400 days of effort, the mission finally entered its final phase. But then an unexpected disaster threw their plans into chaos. The inmates digging in the tunnel suddenly heard rumbling sounds from underground, followed by violent shaking. As dirt began collapsing from above, they scrambled toward the exit. While everyone else was fleeing, Mike ran back toward the room. He had to go rescue his comrades still trapped in the tunnel. Eventually, everyone made it to the open ground, except for Mike and a few others who hadn't emerged yet. When the guards did a head count, they noticed some people were missing. Just as they were about to go in and search, Mike and his companions slowly walked out. The guards were suspicious and immediately questioned them, but they pretended to have twisted their ankles and managed to fool the guards, successfully covering their tracks. Although the tunnel hadn't completely collapsed, an inspection revealed several areas of loose soil. If an aftershock hit, all their 400+ days of work could go down the drain. So after discussing it, Mike and the others decided to act immediately. To notify their contacts outside, they used the next visitation to pass along news of the escape and confirmed the date, December 23rd, 2025. On the day of the operation, the prisoners poked a small hole through the tunnel exit, stuck a tube through it, and sprayed red ink onto the ground to mark the location for their getaway crew. Late that night, the prisoners changed their clothes, said their goodbyes, and one by one crawled into the tunnel. Sean carefully kept a record to make sure no one was left behind. Soon, the tunnel was packed with people. They crawled forward carefully. To avoid alerting the guards, some inmates first watched TV with the others, then slipped away one by one. But before long, Tony, who had been bribed by the guards, noticed something was off. He realized Mike and his crew had all disappeared and quickly ran out of the room. At that moment, a man in a wheelchair blocked Tony's path and tried to stall him with various excuses. When it became clear Tony couldn't be persuaded, the man grabbed onto Tony's clothes, but it was no use. Tony shoved him to the ground. By then, Sean, who had stayed behind until the end, hadn't had a chance to escape and was caught red-handed by Tony. Seeing that the jig was up, Sean tried to convince Tony to escape with them, but Tony refused and even said he intended to report them for the credit. In desperation, Sean got into a violent struggle with Tony. To give his friends time to get away, Sean locked his arms around Tony's neck. In the chaos, Tony grabbed a screwdriver and stabbed Sean. Fighting through the intense pain, Sean managed to knock Tony unconscious, but he himself was bleeding badly from the wound. Meanwhile, the others had successfully broken through the tunnel. One by one, they climbed out of the hole. Mike sensed something was wrong. Sean still hadn't made it out, but time was running out and he had no choice but to lead the group away. The bus they'd arranged was already waiting and everyone started boarding. Just then, John said he was going back for Sean. The others begged him not to, warning that if he wasn't back in 3 minutes, the bus would leave without him. In the end, John decided to go back for Sean. Meanwhile, the man in the wheelchair had calculated the time carefully. He spread the word about the tunnel to the other prisoners, urging them to escape while they still could. The news spread fast and inmates rushed toward the room. The first few to leave got lucky and escaped successfully, but their unusual behavior quickly caught the guards' attention. Armed security flooded in and subdued the remaining prisoners. In those critical moments, John still hadn't returned, and the group finally decided to leave. Everyone on the bus was filled with worry, unsure whether John and Sean had made it. Fortunately, someone had been watching the back of the bus the whole time. When the bus had traveled less than 300 meters, John's figure finally appeared in the distance. But tragically, Sean never made it out. This story is based on true events. Over 18 months, the prisoners dug an 80-meter tunnel and successfully escaped. 49 inmates in all broke out of the Santiago prison.